Today we are going to discuss about the relative clauses. First of all, it is necessary to learn the introduction. We should have the background of the introduction of the sentence structure. As you know that a sentence starts with a capital letter and ends with a punctuation mark. It varies. Sentence varies according to its form and function. It has a complete meaning. And you can say that a sentence is has a category according to its structure, and we can classify the sentences into simple, compound, complex, and compound complex sentences. An important way of analyzing sentences is by examining the number of clauses they contain. A sentence has a main and subordinate clause. The one clause in each sentence can occur alone, and it has a subject and a predicate, and has a complete meaning, you can say, while the other one cannot. It is dependent on the main clause. The main clause, there will be the absence in main clause, there will be the absence of binding adjunct, but in subordinate clause we find that there is a binding adjunct, and the binding adjuncts are, they are the joining words, and we call them who, which, what, where, how, that, if, although, as if. And now I'm going to define the relative clause, that what the relative clause is. A relative clause is one kind of dependent clause. It is a dependent clause. This is the other part of the sentence which is dependent on the independent sentence. It has a subject and a verb but cannot stand alone as a sentence. It is sometimes called an adjective clause also, because it functions like an adjective. It gives more information about a noun. A relative clause always begins with a relative pronoun, which substitutes for a noun phrase, or a noun when sentences are combined. So, they are also called the nominal groups. These are the parts of the nominal groups. Uh, as uh, as far as the subordinate clauses are concerned, knowing about before knowing about the relative clauses, then we should know about the B elements in sentence structure. The very first is adverbial clauses, which are called B1. Additional clauses, non-defining relative clauses, which are B2. And the third one is reported clause. Reported clauses are noun clauses. These are also called B3. So the relative clauses, as far as relative clauses are concerned, these are two types of the relative clauses, and they are the defining clauses and non-defining clauses. Non-defining relative clauses, which are called B2. Non-defining relative clauses are the essential part of the sentence, and they add meaning. But if they are removed, the sentences will still function grammatically. Additional clauses, or B2, are the same as the non defining relatives clauses in traditional grammars. For example, I went to Karachi, which is in the south. This phrase, defining the first or independent clause, that they are talking about Karachi, which is situated in south. My uncle, who is pilot, brings presents home. The American runner, who was getting old, failed to finish. These clauses are marked off by the comma in written language and intonation in the spoken language. Intonation, up and down pitch of the sound. So we can show that we are explaining the things like that, and we explain the main sentence through our you can say utterance, or through the sentences. Some clauses are defining relative clauses. The second phase is defining relative clauses. The examples are given: the man who came to dinner stayed a month. The man I visited the town was my uncle. These clauses are defining relative clauses, and they are the part of nominal group and not as a separate subordinate group. Subordinate clause, the important thing is this, that they are also not the subordinate clauses. So we can say the defining relative clauses are the not the subordinated clauses, but the independent clauses, and the non-defining relative clauses are the dependent clauses. These are the differences. So the as far as the defining relative clauses, they are the subordinate clauses, and we usually use a relative pronoun or adverb to start a defining relative clauses. Who, for example, who, which, that, when, were, or whose. They are embedded clauses qualifying a head words in a nominal group, and we have already discussed these things with reference to nominal group, that the specification of the group.